Teofimo Lopez defeats Vasyl Lomachenko on a 12-round unanimous decision. Let's talk about it. You know, one of the things which I was wondering going into this fight is how Lomachenko would deal with Lopez's size and his youth. This is something I spoke about in my pre-fight video, and I put a post up on the community page on my YouTube channel about half an hour or so before the first bell of this fight. And I made a point of talking about Lopez's youth and his size because, yes, Lomachenko has fought some fantastic boxers in the past. People with just as good as boxing skills as Lopez, if not better. But he'd never fought anybody with the combination of different attributes that Lopez has. The boxing skills, yes, but also the size, the punching power, the physical strength, and the youth. Youth is not to be underestimated. Even though Lomachenko hasn't had loads of wars in his career, he is still, 32 years of age? So nearly 10 years older than Lopez. And he's done a load of training throughout his career. The guy loves training, is always in the gym. That does wear down your body. And in boxing, no matter how skilled you are, if you keep on moving up through the weights, you're eventually going to hit a ceiling where the size of the opponents and the physical strength and the punching power of them starts to negate your skill advantage. You see, from the opening bell of this fight, Lomachenko realized, well, not quite from the opening bell, but certainly from the first 2 rounds, he realized that Lopez hit harder than anybody he'd been in the ring with before. That was very clear to me. That Lomachenko got hit with some body shots or some shots that hit him on the shoulder or a glove. And he thought, you know what, I can't take this guy's power right now when he's fresh like this. So even though he's been in there with guys who can box at long range very well, none of them could hit like Lopez. And Lopez was sharp. You know, he's got that sharpness of a young man, 23 years of age, great reflexes when you're that age. And Lomachenko thought, no, I can't take a risk here and try and pressure this guy after you know, a couple of rounds like I normally do with most opponents. I just can't do it. He's too sharp. He hits too hard at the moment. I can't do it. With some previous opponents who were also sharp, yeah, he would take that risk. He would step forward. He would apply pressure because he wasn't really worried about catching the odd counter here and there. But with Lopez early on, he was worried about it. So Lopez was able to keep Lomachenko in his shell through the first 8 rounds of the fight. I mean, it was an absolute cakewalk for Lopez through the first 8 rounds. Lomachenko really just didn't do anything. And see, a lot of people were wondering, why isn't Lomachenko doing anything? What's going on here? Is he old overnight? Is he shot? What's happening? Is it the ring rust? I wouldn't really look too much into those things, ring rust and all that kind of stuff. No, I don't think it was so much that. I just think it was the size of Lopez. And Lomachenko's not a guy who's used to having to walk through loads of punches to get his own off. He's used to being able to hit and not get hit. Yeah, occasionally he'll take one if he feels like the guy doesn't really have that kind of power to hurt him. But he doesn't like taking loads of shots, okay? That's not his game. I saw a recent Mike Tyson podcast where Mike Tyson was saying that boxing is not a tough guy's sport. Tough guys get hurt in boxing. Boxing is a sport for smart guys. You have to be smart to be able to be a top-level boxer. But sometimes being a tough guy can come in handy. And I'm not saying Lomachenko isn't a tough guy. He is tough. But there's levels of tough, okay? And there are fighters who, they make being a tough guy their bread and butter, like Antonio Margarito back in the days, Brandon Rios back in the days. Those kind of guys wouldn't have stood back and just allowed Teofimo Lopez to box them like that. They would have pressured him and, you know, blocked his shots and walked through punches. That's what they would have done because that's the type of fighters they are. I'm not saying they would have been successful with it. Certainly not Brandon Rios, maybe Margarito because he's bigger. But the point I'm making is that's what they've been doing their whole career. Lomachenko has never been doing that, okay? He's not a guy who comes forward and no matter what is going to apply pressure on you, even if he has to take 10 to land 1. So people shouldn't expect him to all of a sudden change and be that guy when he's up against Teofimo Lopez. He hasn't been that guy his whole career. He's been a skill guy. So that's what it was for me. He felt Lopez's power and he thought, you know what? I'm going to have to wait until this guy slows down until some steam comes off those punches. I'm going to have to wait until he's maybe not quite as sharp to pull the trigger, because one of the things that a lot of people commented on is Lopez's eyes look very intense. He was extremely focused early on in the fight. And that in itself can drain you. That in itself can take your energy away. It can sap your strength and energy when you're focused so intensely. And I think Lomachenko knew that. And I think his dad in the corner knew that. So although they didn't want to take any risks early on because Lopez was too strong and powerful and sharp, they thought, okay, if we can get him late and we can slow him down a little bit, then maybe it'll be safe enough to go in and start taking some risks. And that's what Lomachenko did. When eventually Lopez started slowing down a bit around the 8th or 9th round, that's when you saw Lomachenko step on the gas a little bit, start landing some shots. And at that point, he thought, okay, it's safe enough now to go in and start applying some pressure. And hats off to Lomachenko, because he did do some good work in the final, let's say, 4 rounds of the fight. But ultimately, it wasn't enough. And Lomachenko got hurt several times in this fight. I was actually surprised, given the kind of punches Lopez was throwing. And he was throwing some real wicked, heavy shots. You could hear the power of them, even when they hit Lomachenko on the shoulder or on the chest. There was tremendous power on him. And I was surprised when he was throwing them kind of shots that he didn't manage to drop Lomachenko. But he never really caught him with full power, bang in the face, with that right uppercut. But he did catch him with full power in the body a number of times. And he noticeably hurt Lomachenko several times in the fight with body shots. He backed him off with body shots. He made him wince with body shots. And Lomachenko had a real good 11th round. I think that was probably his best round of the fight. But Lopez came out in the 12th and he decided to meet fire with fire. He ended up with a bad cut, actually, from a clash of heads in the final seconds of the fight. But yeah, Lomachenko was trying to stand with him and give as good as he got, but he did hurt Lomachenko again in that 12th. And as I say, if it wasn't well, there was only 15 seconds left, but you never know what could have happened if he was allowed to continue to flow. He might have scored a knockdown of Lomachenko. But in the end, it was academic. Teofimo Lopez won the fight on a unanimous points decision. Now, as far as the scorecards, I thought Lopez was the rightful winner. I thought he won the fight comfortably. But the scorecards, 116-112, I think I didn't score the fight round by round, but if I went back and scored it, or if I'd scored it at a time, I'd imagine my scorecard would have been similar to that. Something like 116-112 would probably have been my scorecard. Julie Lederman scoring it 119-109. I mean, that's an eyebrow raiser right there. I don't know why it's that. I mean, she didn't give Lomachenko more than what, a round? Steve Weisfeld, 117-111. Maybe. I personally think that Tim Cheatham's scorecard was the most accurate, because Lomachenko did do some good work in the back end of the fight. But anyway, whatever the cards were, academic, because the right man did win, and that's Teofimo Lopez. A lot of people are shocked. A lot of people are surprised for different reasons. Some people are shocked that Lopez won. They thought that Lomachenko was just going to dominate. I never thought that. I always thought that even if Lomachenko wins, it's going to be a rough fight for him. I actually picked Lomachenko on points in my live stream. I was like, I think Lomachenko will probably take it on points, but I think it's going to be a very, very rough fight for him. And he's going to have to come through some tough times. I thought it might be similar to the Salido fight. A close fight. Lomachenko gets roughed up, but unlike the Salido fight, he gets the rub of the green on the judges. I was thinking it might be that kind of thing. But I certainly am not surprised that Lopez won. Was I surprised that Lopez was able to dominate in the first 8 rounds, just totally nullifying Lomachenko and outboxing him? Yeah, I was surprised by that. I won't go as far as saying I was shocked, because, as I say, the power and the size and the youth of Lopez, that's what it can do. It can intimidate a smaller, older guy who is a very talented boxer, but he relies on being able to take certain liberties with his opponents. But when you're in there with a young guy like that, so sharp and powerful, much physically bigger than you, and look, there isn't much difference in terms of height between the two, but look at the body of both of them in the ring. It was apparent from early on, Lopez just looked so physically imposing. His shoulders, his chest, everything about him just looked more powerful and big than Lomachenko. When you're in there with a guy like that, that's what can happen. He can scare you out of your boxing. So the way the fight played out isn't really what I expected. I expected a more matador bull type situation where Lopez is not recklessly attacking, but he's moving forward and trying to close down the space and trap Lomachenko, and he's hitting him with some heavy shots. And Lomachenko's a bit flustered and roughed up, but he's boxing and doing fairly well. That's the kind of pattern I expected. But in terms of a competitive fight, I always expected that here. But turns out that Lopez was just far too much for Lomachenko in those first 8 rounds. And in the last 4 rounds of the fight, in many people's cards, he at least won one of those rounds. Yeah, deserved winner. Onwards and upwards for him. Now, they called this the Undisputed, but I guess Devin Haney's got something to say about that because, well, there's no WBC world title there. So can you really call that Undisputed? Let's see. Teofimo Lopez versus Devin Haney. I'm definitely looking forward to that one. And you've got Ryan Garcia, who's going to fight Luke Campbell. The winner of that goes up against Devin Haney. I mean, could an upset happen where Luke Campbell beats Ryan Garcia? Even if Luke Campbell don't beat Garcia and Garcia wins, who wins out of Garcia and Haney? I mean, that's a tremendous fight as well. And then the winner of that fights Lopez. Fantastic stuff going on right now. 135 pounds. A lot to look forward to. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below about Teofimo Lopez's victory over Vasyl Lomachenko. Were you shocked that Lopez won? Or were you just not so much shocked that Lopez won, just more surprised at the manner of his victory, which is kind of what surprised me. I thought, okay, if Lopez wins, he's going to have to rough Lomachenko up, and maybe he can do that. But just totally outboxing him for the majority of the fight? Impressive. Let me know how you feel, people. It's happening. I'm out.